I'm gonna get into a much more different topic for this video, and I'm actually gonna share stories of where communication just didn't really go as planned. You know, you're not gonna relate to exactly my stories, but at least you're gonna probably hear them and be like, wow, you know, something like that has happened to me before. So there's only 3 stories. They're all very different. Well, one of them is just kind of ridiculous. Another one's really, really sad. And then the third one is just frustrating because it's about a boy. So without further ado, here come the stories. I'm just gonna name drop throughout this entire thing. I was at my friend John's house, and he was supposed to be babysitting 2 little boys, and before I left, the father dropped them off. I had never met the father before, but when I went to meet him, I recognized him because we all went to a church together. That's actually where I met John, too. Basically, I went up to meet the father, and the father was named Paul. I was just very, very excited to meet him because John had told me a lot about him. And I did what I always do when I meet a new person. Hi, it's nice to meet you. I was gonna shake his hand because that's just what I always do. Hello, military family. I do not hug when I meet somebody. I shake hands. And literally, Paul looked down at my hand. He was like, what are you, 85 years old? No, I'm 17. It was hilarious. He meant it in the most joking way possible, but in that moment, I just did something that I always do when I meet somebody. And Paul thought it was just so hilarious that I just didn't have a clue about how to greet an actual, just regular, everyday human being that happened to be a father. I don't know, I just didn't get it. Throughout the evening, I started to listen to when Paul and John's dad were talking about how ridiculous I was. Why did she want to shake my hand when she met me? And John's dad, totally had my back, but was just that's just what she does. Because I had, different ways of carrying myself and communicating. He just didn't know that. It's a really, really small way of looking at communicating. And then the sad story, it's actually about my friend, Random. Yes, his name really is Random. I cannot express that enough. It's literally on his birth certificate. He's just a really great guy, period, but his name's Random, okay? Random and I did radio together. I was a senior in the communications program when he was a junior. Every other year, we tried to do just a small event called Rock for Radio and the Dodgeball Tournament. Now those 2 were happening at the same time, and basically Rock for Radio was the chance that a bunch of local high school musicians were able to sign up and just perform in front of an audience of people. We did this all at the high school. Central High School is pretty big. Obviously not everybody in the world watching this is gonna know that, but Centerville's got a really big gym. And in the gym was where we were hosting the dodgeball tournament. We had a way to call the game live on WCWT, and we had a way to do it just right there in the gym, obviously, because we're able to do basketball-like things in a gym. I was a person that introduced the next artist just by making jokes or making some kind of segue into the next person that was going to perform. Once my position was done, my job was done, I went to help out at concessions. The only thing is, Random and I were supposed to be that segue artist. That's just what I'll call it right now. So Random and I were supposed to be segue artists, and I could not find him. And when I couldn't find him, someone else that just happened to be there that was also in radio, his name was Philip. Philip and I just went on and did our position, our job, just like that. Philip was going to do something by himself, but because I couldn't find Random, I tried to have Philip help me out because I knew I couldn't do it by myself, and obviously Philip could already do it by himself. So if anything, he was doing me a favor. So when my job was done, I went to help out at concessions. The people that were calling the dodgeball tournament were Bryce and Frank. There was this one moment where the people that were calling the dodgeball tournament ran up to me, and Bryce was like, Alex, Frank lost his voice. We need you to call the dodgeball tournament. And I was just so excited, because that was a job that I really wanted to do, and I didn't sign up for it fast enough when radio class was going on. And I was like, oh my god, yes, I'll totally help. Because my job is already done. At this point, I was being one of those floaters and just kind of helping the people that needed help. I got to call the dodgeball tournament. But right when I went to call the dodgeball tournament, Random came up to me. Now I haven't seen him in a really long time. But he was expecting to go on the Rock for Radio stage. And I, tried to call back to him like, they need me at the dodgeball tournament. Now, of course, I'm doing this across a hallway. Maybe he didn't hear me. Exactly. I really hope everybody can see where I'm going with this. By the end of the night, I got some text messages from Random. He thought that I was trying to just humiliate him, not being his partner, and just kind of leaving him up there on the stage. When I got those text messages, I power walked down to the radio classroom because I knew that's where everybody was going to meet up so we could clean everything up, and I knew Random was there. And Random was in the back studio, and I started kind of yelling because I didn't like that he just accused me of trying to humiliate him. He knows me. He's been friends with me for over a year, and in that moment, I was just really, really upset that not only did he accuse me of something that I obviously didn't do, but he knows me better than that. Come on. We found out after this actual fight that we had, Random thought that I was trying to humiliate him. And then I came back with the fact that I could not find him. And he was confused, obviously, what are you talking about? I explained to him that I looked for him before I just went on the stage for Rock for Radio. And I was obviously at the concession stand for quite a while. There was a possibility he was gonna walk back and forth, maybe. Even when the dodgeball tournament had its intermission, I looked for Random, and Random didn't know that when we were fighting. The noise in his head was his own self-esteem, and that he thought that I just didn't want to be his friend, and that's not how it was. It was a very, very simple, stupid way that we just didn't communicate with each other, which is really surprising because we were literally in a communications program together. But on the other hand, I did mention earlier how he sent me text messages. Something about Centerville. When I was in high school, the Wi-Fi did not turn on until after 8 o'clock. I couldn't have gotten the text messages when the dodgeball tournament was going on anyway. The fact that it happened at the end of the night wasn't the greatest, but it was the realization that Random and I are friends and we respect each other and we're definitely, we're good. But denying yourself and blaming someone else for the same is just not the way to make that friendship last. And then the last story that I'm going to share is actually something that's pretty funny. It has to do with someone, I had been seeing for a little while now. He and I went on a couple of dates, one. We had also been friends before for about 2 months. We used to work together, and we only interacted in that kind of environment. Now, obviously a date is not like the work environment, but once the date was over, I definitely had this feeling of just calmness. This just calming thought that everything was okay. The date just went so well. And then the next day, he did not talk to me. It wasn't until 2 days after the date that he initiated contact with me again. And between the next 3 days of texting each other, we talked about a second date a lot, but it was only in one-ended text messages, if that makes sense at all. When we were talking to each other on and off for those 3 days, between work schedules and just priorities, we did not have one of those conversations where they just kind of kept going. There was this one point where I was really doubting how he felt about me. I just didn't think that he actually liked me. I was having so many doubts in my head that he even found me attractive, let alone the label of just having a crush on me, let alone being in a relationship with this guy. There was this one text message that he sent to me. Well, actually, before I even explain to you what the text message was, we were talking to each other, and I don't mean talking like that stupid society term talking, like getting to know one another. No, we were not talking like that. We were talking to each other. We were not communicating, but we were talking to each other because we were friends first, and at least we knew we found each other attractive. We just talked to each other because it was free-flowing, it was fluid, we were okay. When the guy and I were not having constant text conversations, I didn't think that he really wanted to talk to me anymore. And that was fine. I'm not going to waste my time trying to talk to you day in and day out, but oh my lord, this one day, I was starting to feel like he was accusing me of something. It was not straight up I know you did this, because obviously I hadn't done anything worth accusing, and he said to me that he thought I wasn't texting back enough. And I was like, what? Why do you think I'm not texting back enough? You're the one that's not texting back enough, but I'm saying like all of that in my head. He like obviously like couldn't see my body language and my reactions if we're texting each other. And he was like, yeah, you went from texting me back a lot to not texting me back that much. Oh my God, I was so frustrated in that moment. You're the one that's not texting me back that much. He and I literally thought the same problem about each other. We literally thought the same exact thing was happening on both ends of our situations, but we didn't know it was happening mutually. And you know, I come home and I tell my sister this, and she's for some reason happy for me. Lovely was like, oh my God, you guys finally communicated! And here's my reaction to that. Yeah, great. That's just dandy. Oh my God, that was just such a frustrating moment. That weird, like, manipulating love bug that's just like, you cannot text first. Let them text first. No, put your heart on your sleeve and text the cute person that you think is cute. That was a good way to phrase that. Okay. Liking someone's a really cool thing. You're willing to like something other than yourself. God forbid you like something other than your mirror reflection. God forbid that you hold hands in public, be a little sappy, buy each other a gift, even if it's a single flower or a bag of oyster crackers. If they like both those things, give it to them. It's literally the little things in life that count, and being sappy is a cool thing. It's so, like, not common anymore that when it happens, it's like, oh my God. They like each other, and they're gonna make sure everybody knows it. Mutual liking is a really good thing, and me personally, it's not something that happens that often. In this century, you show some emotion, you definitely get praised for it. Like somebody, do it. It's pretty fun. It is pretty darn fun. So there you have it. Those are the communication realizations that I have had in the past, I'll say, week. But I've been practicing this for quite a long while. I actually started noticing the way that I was perceived by people by watching my YouTube videos. Just because, you know, I have to edit them, I have to critique them. What is happening to my voice? Oh my Lord. I gotta listen for the problems and the ways I stutter, which I just did right there. I literally have to know how I carry myself if I'm gonna make a message come across the way that I want it to. It's just frustrating how in the past week, I realized that that's just not always going to happen. And Olivia really wasn't kidding when she said that I'm studying the ongoing problem in the world, and that's communicating. Doesn't matter what you're communicating about. Religion, politics, sex and gender, or even what you want from the grocery store. If you don't say it in a way that the other person's going to understand, you're not going to understand. I will post my links for my social media accounts in the description below. Maybe that way you'll actually understand how I communicate over Twitter and Instagram and all that stuff. I don't know how many people actually like go to my social media accounts when I post them down there, but if you ever do, I guess there's not much that I can think about that, is there? Just the fact that, hey, like, you like my stuff? Thanks. I mentioned a lot of communications models and theories in this video. I'll actually post some of those down below as well. Those might actually like be kind of like a little life lesson for you guys watching. Like, wow, this is actually something that's a real life thing. Talking to each other is a science, and it's something that I'm really, really looking forward to studying in these next 2 years. It's hard to believe, but I'll be graduating college in 2 years. Another realization right there. I don't really have a crazy hair story today. It's pretty red, but I mean, that doesn't take much more explaining. By the way, I'm wearing the fun pants again because they're just so fun. In the meantime, I will see you all next week, my darlings.